Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next session at Fire by Live. This is a big interview session, and I'm joined by Linnenburger, the Battalion Chief for Westminster Fire Department. And we're going to be talking about all things kind of leadership, inventory management, emerging technologies, budgets, and all the kind of big trends and challenges facing firefighters today. Eric, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time. Just to start, would you like to introduce yourself and give us a little insight into your background and how you ended up where you are today?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be here. I've been in the fire service for about 26 years. Kind of out of high school, wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and found the fire service and enrolled in a fire science program at my local college, and it all lifted off from there. I worked for a small volunteer fire department in a rural area as an intern while I was in school. And just really developed the love for it. And a couple of years later, I was hired by my current department, the Westminster Fire Department in Colorado. We are a suburban department just outside of Denver. We have been there for just over 24 years now, and kind of gone through the ranks of firefighter. I was a paramedic firefighter for quite a few years, and then transitioned to lieutenant, and then captain, and currently battalion chief, a line battalion chief for C shift. So the Westminster Fire Department, we're a 6-station department. So it's a fairly small department, but we operate fairly urban, suburban type environment, and we work within a big region. So we have an automatic aid agreement with all of our local departments in the area. So we're 6 stations, but we operate within a 37 to 40 station region where we go send the closest unit. It doesn't matter what jurisdiction. So we feel a lot bigger than we are in our small department. So I've been there, like I said, about 24, going on 25 years. And in the Westminster Fire Department, we're a full service department. So we do all of, obviously, fire response, but we also do EMS. We run transport unit, medic units with firefighter paramedics on there, and special operations. So we've got a wildland team, and we've got technical rescue, hazmat, water rescue. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. I actually live about an hour north of where I work in a city called Fort Collins, and that's where I grew up and where I live with my wife of 25 years. And I've got 2 daughters in college now.
That's amazing. And I suppose after that long in kind of one department, despite the transition, you've made some incredible friends, and you've got some incredible professionals working next to you and colleagues, and that throughout all the different fire stations you work with. That's really nice, rich kind of heritage to hear about. And just obviously you mentioned that there's a kind of urban suburban style environment with the department that you work for. What are some of the unique challenges that you face compared to other regions in the States or internationally?
Yeah, I think a lot of our challenges are probably pretty similar to the challenges across North America. But I think specifically where I'm at, we are a growing region, and so I think the new construction, we've got a lot of new construction. We've got a lot of commercial fire in that too, but a lot of our construction is lightweight construction. So it burns fast, it burns hot, also getting bigger. And so it's a lot of, like the high rises, we call them the mid-rise buildings. So it's like a high rise laid down on its side. So very, very large buildings. And parking garages underneath, and so multiple challenges. Along with that, it's just the increased call volume. Nothing is slowing down. Our population in our area hasn't really grown that much, but our call volume has gone up, thousands and thousands of calls per year. And so, like for instance, we're only operating out of 6 fire stations, but we're running about over 17,000 calls a year, and that's, like I said, all hazards. And so with that, a lot of EMS and just dealing with all the changes within society and the challenges within society. And so we're kind of facing all that. So I'd say it's kind of a combination of all those things. And I think that many fire departments face bits and pieces of those challenges. I think we've got a little bit of everything. So we've got the urban type of challenges, but then we've also got some more of the new growth stuff and some rural challenges as well with our wildland urban interface challenges in the area. We're right at the base of the Rocky Mountains, and so we do our fair share of that kind of stuff as well.
Wow, so you definitely got your fingers in all the pies then. You're doing everything.
Yeah.
I mean, how on earth do you balance all those different challenges? Obviously we're going to get into training in a little bit, but that's a monumental challenge when you think about all the different environments and applications that you're getting called out to. How do you balance those needs of whether it's budgeting, whether it's training, of all those different kind of sectors between your different not departments, but your different areas of your department?
It's overwhelming. Sometimes it feels like we're just running on a hamster wheel and just trying to keep up. In the fire service, especially what I'm familiar with in the North American Fire Service, we don't say no to anything. As you can tell, we've taken on all these different challenges, and we do it because I do feel it's right for our communities, but we're shorthanded a lot. And so it is very, very challenging to keep up with all of those things. The training, the budgeting, all those things you mentioned, all have to go in to this in order to keep us proficient. And like I said, we don't really say no to a lot. And so it's just a constant, I think, drilling into our people that it's constant growth, and change is inevitable. And we struggle a little bit in our industry with change, but I feel pretty fortunate to work in a fairly progressive region, especially where things are changing so fast that we have no choice but to do our best to keep up with it. And so it's a lot of planning. We do still have to do our fair share of reacting to things that come at us, but we're starting to get a little bit better at being proactive with that.
Definitely. And I think you're right. I mean, no matter where you're based in the world, change is one of the biggest challenges that everyone's facing in all different industries. We've got all these new technologies, all these new kind of things coming in, and at the end of the day, they're already here. We can complain and we can have difficulty with them naturally, of course, but the fact of the matter is we have to plan and deal with it already, and start innovating those kind of solutions or those tactics to battle those new challenges.
Right.
And like you said, you're facing these vast kind of these huge units, these huge buildings, and it's not just when you think of high rise, you traditionally think of the huge skyscrapers where our urban and built environments are growing vertically, but actually they're also growing horizontally. And like you said, if you've got a huge building and you've got to check every single room for occupants or citizens that might be needing rescuing, that's a huge challenge. So you've got to advocate for. And I think the difficulty is as well is that you've got all these challenges, but our budgets, our training matching those new challenges. So that's what I kind of wanted to come on to next is that kind of leadership and training side of your expertise. Like we said, modern firefighters, you're not solely focused, if I get my words out right, on one area of expertise, anymore. Instead, you're being faced with a number of different challenges, a number of different environments. How do you foster a kind of a culture of continuous improvement within your battalion?
Yeah, I think it's a mindset thing. We just try to remind people that change is inevitable, and try to do those things that not only change the service but help us out as teams as well. And so our environment is only getting more complex, and so that's where I'm always looking for those innovations, those technologies that can help us deal with the complexity. There will always be a need for the human firefighter to be out there, the human thinking firefighter. I don't see our initial response being dictated by technology. We need to use technology to aid us in that. So I think it is just that mindset of working with our teams and showing them how technology can assist us rather than hinder us. And it's kind of just meeting people where they are and understanding that we can't just put these new technologies out and put a new training program out and expect everybody to jump on board right away. We need to kind of tell them the why behind it. And so doing a lot of really demonstrating how and why the training or the technology will benefit them and make our job safer and more efficient. So I do that by, combining a lot of the data and the science that we're finally getting out there now, which for years we didn't have that. We just went by what kind of the loudest voice in the room told us was the correct thing to do. And now we're able to combine that data, that real science, but also utilize the boots on the ground, and really listen to them and combine the two, because I think the sweet spot is there. The scientists can't tell us everything about how they're doing things in a controlled environment where we're out there in this uncontrolled environment. So we have to trust both sides, and it's trying to bring the two together. And I think that's what I find myself doing a lot within my leadership and with my teams is showing that why behind and how these products or the training might help them their job become more efficient. And so it's a lot of communication and just connecting the dots. And yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
No, certainly. And I know, obviously, we met at FDIC a few weeks back, and you can walk that incredibly vast exhibition hall and see the most incredible innovations and products and technology on display. But like you said, as a nature, as an industry by nature, we're slow to change purely because of what the nature of our industry. If you're dealing with saving lives, you need to be 100% certain that the equipment that you're relying on is foolproof. So we're naturally always going to be slow to transition to new technologies, but there's a lot of stuff out in the market where we can help improve some of the other areas that might not cost as much as bringing in a whole robot, for example. So in terms of the admin side of firefighting, one of the biggest issues is obviously inventory management, and that's something we spoke about at FDIC. So what strategies do you employ to kind of help manage the inventory effectively in a fire department with all these continuous budget constraints, all these changes all the time?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, and it's something I think, at least in our area, we ignored not ignored, but it wasn't really as much a priority for years and years. We used the same equipment, and we had fewer people and fewer things to track and to manage. And now in our current world, where we need to be more transparent, and that's how we justify getting the things that we need to get, is by showing that we're responsible and that we're taking care of the things that we have. We've put a lot more, I guess, focus and priority into taking care of our assets and really proving why we need certain things. And so we've incorporated some asset management systems within our department that make it easier, whether that's the day-to-day inventory that we might do, checking our apparatus, checking our equipment, showing that we are, from a liability standpoint as well, that we're taking care of our equipment and we're ready to respond to our weekly checks. We do weekly checks on all of our apparatus, and so we need to be able to track that. And then, on down the line, and then we utilize that then to then build into like our replacement schedules. So we've got planned out apparatus replacement schedules, and then that helps us sell it to when we do need to procure the equipment, that we've got a good that we're showing that we're being responsible with what we have. And so I really think that that's a lot of where we're at right now, especially in the American Fire Service, is working on those ways that we can take some of the complexity out of our job and not make it a hindrance, and actually make it easier. And so taking that inventory control system and we're putting it on mobile devices so that it makes it easier on that end user. And it's not just inventory control, or I guess there are many different versions of inventory control that we're doing, but it comes down to all of our record keeping and whether it be, patient care reports on the EMS side or fire reporting, just figuring out what those systems are that can take some of the complexity out of the job and allow us to focus the area that we should be, and that's out there making decisions on the streets.
So definitely something that can help you actually answer the call of those 17,000, calls a year, definitely. And obviously, you kind of clarified how you try and prioritize spending when it comes to, replacement equipment. But if you, miraculously have some extra spending budget and you're looking at more technologies to invest in, how do you decide which kind of areas or what technologies you want to invest in?
I think we're kind of following the industry and we're looking at the challenges that we have in our area and in our region. We're doing a lot more regional purchasing now to complement one another. All the departments in our region have some kind of different specialties, and so that's one area that we're being more efficient with our resources, but really rely on those subject matter experts. I think me as a chief in our department, I try to be engaged in what's going on in the world in our industry, but I can't know everything. We can't expect our chief officers to know everything. So we, in our smaller department, rely a lot on our subject matter experts. And so whether that be someone from, a specialty team like a technical rescue team or a dive team, or when it comes to, the lithium ion battery issue that we have out there right now, we put teams together to kind of research that and determine where we need to put our money. In the budgeting process, we work for a municipal department, so some bureaucracy there, and it's very, very challenging. A lot of us know what we need to move forward, but sometimes it feels like it's at a snail's pace to make it happen. So it's putting the right people in place that can be thoughtful and well researched, but also plan ahead and there's a little gamesmanship behind it as well to make sure that we're selling things the right way. And so it's a combination, I think, of the right people, the right information, and the right approach to put those things in place.
Well, I'm just still shocked that you don't know everything, Eric. How could you know everything that there is to know about the fire industry? But no, you're right. I think a collaboration between departments as well, and just talking to one another in the industry. I mean, at events, at kind of conferences, just over Teams like we're doing now. There's so many differentiations between regions and different challenges between regions that, for example, I don't know if you've got a specific, I don't know, high rise specialist, for example, that has dealt with small tactical teams for search and rescue in a high rise development, and this is something that you're starting to see. Why not collaborate and talk to each other? Because they might have already found a solution, and that solution might be something that you, for example, might not have even occurred to you yet. So that collaboration between the entirety of the industry, I think, is incredibly important when we're in this kind of state of flux of change, where like you said, all these new challenges are coming to fruition, and you're just trying your best to deal with them and find those proactive measures and preventative measures. On the talking about new kind of measures and training and stuff, on the training side, which obviously is a necessity. We're seeing huge kind of developments in this area to try and make training more accessible or more inclusive and more diverse in terms of like environments. What is your kind of go-to training for your kind of new recruits or your current recruits, whether it's wood burning, whether it's simulation? Do you have a kind of hybrid format? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, I think we do, and it's again constantly evolving. I've seen more change in this area in the last even 5 years than probably my previous 20 years. So we're moving pretty fast. I think we are starting to, like I said, try to be more efficient with what we're doing. And so, I don't think we will or should ever go fully technology based for our training, but we're starting to incorporate more technology into our training. For instance, preloading our trainings ahead of time with with virtual solutions for people to get their mind wrapped around the training, so that we're not spending the majority of the time, say, on the drill ground, going over what could be done individually or in a classroom. So a little bit more virtual type of training for that, so that when they come to the fire ground to train, it's very, very efficient, and we can focus on the skills that need to be focused on. I think another area that we're working through in our own agency right now is how should we be doing our live fire training? With the cancer prevention efforts we're trying to do out there and the awareness towards that, should we really be burning those Class A fuels as much as we are, and creating these conditions? And it's not so much a worry for the individual companies, the crews coming through to do the training, but we're really worried about the people providing the training on the fire ground that are out there for 8 to 12 hours each day. So are there more efficient ways we could provide that training and still give the same realistic experience that our people need? So it's a balance all the time. It's like that, you talk collaboration, it's collaboration and balance. And so those are some of those things that we're looking at right now. So even within my own battalion, we cannot get out because of the increased call load and the increased challenges. We can't get out and do the things that we used to do 20 years ago. We don't have the time that we did. And so we do try to incorporate a lot more. I try to incorporate a lot of, especially when it comes to like incident command training and communications training, we can do a lot of that virtually. And a lot of that we're working within our small teams, say out on the fire ground, distant from one another anyway. So it only makes sense that we can do that, say behind a computer screen or within our own district. So we're still maintaining coverage for our districts and our citizens, but still getting the training we need. So I think that's kind of where it's at for us right now. Obviously, no substitute for the hands-on training, but those areas that we can do that hybrid approach and incorporate some of that, especially the preload stuff that could be done in a classroom, so that when crews are ready, they're efficient, they're ready to hit that fire ground and that training ground ready to do the task.
And I think you've got completely the right approach there. You can never go fully virtual in this respect, because you can't go for, it's very different. I can go watch Mission Impossible and
Yep.
then suddenly I can't, it doesn't mean I can jump out of a plane.
Sure.
You need to put yourself kind of, each individual firefighter needs to put themselves in that live scenario to understand the heat, to understand the carrying the load and the weight of equipment and the use of equipment. And there are some amazing things you're seeing at the moment, like I think it's XR training, which kind of incorporates both virtual and physical. So they're still using the equipment, the hoses and the nozzles and everything like that, but you're in a virtual setting, so you're not pumping water out there or foam or anything like that. And I think, that kind of, you're going to start to see a lot more of that, especially when it comes to, like you said, budgets for training as well. You can only do so much realistic training without kind of, risking the safety and the health of training officers or firefighters themselves. So it's an interesting landscape training, I think, definitely. I think you're right. We've seen a lot of progression over recent years. And a lot of people that I've spoken to, a lot of fire chiefs, are all saying the same thing, that's exactly what they're looking for, this hybrid format where they can incorporate kind of all these different elements. So there's a kind of 360-degree angle that they can provide, new firefighters. And just moving on to, the kind of contextual landscape of kind of trends and challenges. You mentioned earlier about the kind of the rise of electric vehicles or lithium-ion batteries and other sorts of kind of, emerging threats. How have they impacted life safety of firefighters, but difficulty, the risks? What kind of response strategies are you using at the moment? We have no solution at this point in time for lithium-ion batteries. We can fully submerge them in water. They're still on fire when they're on thermal runaway. They can still propagate later. What are you guys doing, especially with a lot of car parks in your kind of region?
Yeah, it's a challenge. And I think we don't even know exactly what the challenge is yet. I think that we're going to look back on this in 10 years, 15 years, and we're going to say, oh, why were we so worried about that? It's become second nature. You just take it in, just like other challenges we've had in the past that seemed like, oh my gosh, this is something that we can't, overcome. And I think it's the unknown right now. And there are a lot of people coming at us from different areas saying this is how you should handle it, or this is how I would handle it. And then there's conflicting information out there. I was just at FDIC, and I'm hearing some people with really good intentions, you know, make recommendations, but some of those are polar opposite recommendations. And so, and some, there's a lot of good innovation out there. I think there's a lot of good technology, a lot of people selling technology, but again, they're selling a product. And so we're really trying to weigh what really is the best practice. And I think science is starting to catch up. There's a lot of information now finally starting to come out of the UL and FSRI. And then big departments like the FDNY, Fire Department in New York, are starting to actually do some real experience-based recommendations. So for us right now, I think we're still in that learning phase. And we haven't been faced with a lot of, I haven't yet been on an EV vehicle fire yet that I've had to sit on for 3 hours. Now I say that, and I'll go back to work this week, and that's what I'm going to deal with. And it'll probably be in a parking garage, and there'll be 5 Teslas right next to it that are all going to go up in flames. So anyway, but we really have seen an increase in just the lithium ion batteries, even in small equipment. And
vapes and all of
yeah. And so it is a lot of that. Those things you can a lot of times put it in a bucket of water and get it out of the area. But we're really looking into all this stuff right now. We've got a committee of people that we specifically put together to look at all things lithium ion. And so they're studying the products that are out there. There are a lot of the departments in our area that are starting to purchase the blankets that you can put over the vehicles. Some are even purchasing the undercarriage extinguishing systems. And so we're still in the investigative kind of research phase on that one right now, and determining what we're going to do. But right now, I don't think a lot of our tactics have changed. It's just more of an awareness and an understanding for the volatility of those challenges, especially when you have, I think in the beginning, the talk was, well, you can just let it burn and there'll be no harm, no foul. And it's like, well, how often do you run one of these fires? It's not involved either in a crash, or isn't maybe in an active charging process inside of a garage or a home or right next to a structure. So it's not always feasible just to let it burn. So we're really looking at that, what our options are there. And right now, I think it's just utilizing copious amounts of water and then just being very, very cautious and protecting our exposure. So like I said, I think I'm kind of rambling here, but it is just a lot of just learning about the problem and adapting to it. And that's kind of the phase that we're in right now with that.
Definitely. And I think there's a very common misconception with EVs as well, that they kind of just spontaneously combust all over the place.
Right.
And actually, they're no more likely to set fire and go into thermal runaway than a normal fuel combustion engine. So there's a lot of myths that are kind of currently being debunked as well at the moment in the industry. And like you said, we're already seeing innovations in this department. I saw the blankets over the vehicles. That's amazing. And also, like you said, if it's in a car park, the toxic fumes and everything that are happening, you don't really want to be putting your firefighters at risk in that department, but you can't just let it continue burning as well. So
Correct.
I think it's only a matter of time before we kind of find a solution in this department, and I'm sure we'll look back on it and go, well, duh. Like, why did we not think about that? And I think there's also a wider industry necessity, not just for firefighting, for the actual extinguishing of the flames, but also preventative. If we can install systems and make it common practice in electric vehicles to install better systems that reduce fire risks or put out flames before it can get to the battery pack, and make that, a common occurrence in every single electric vehicle, then you're putting preventative measures that should start mitigating the risks, associated with it. So there's lots of different things that I think the industry's doing, and everyone's doing different things. Like you said, there's a lot of conflicting information out there. So I think it's a, like you said, it's a waiting game. Um,
It, I'm sorry to
no, no,
interrupt.
okay.
You're making me think collaboration again, right? And it's where we need to be. And it's not just we're doing a better job of collaborating within our own industry. Still, so much room to grow. I think that's one of our biggest challenges in the American Fire Services, especially. But we need collaboration among the industry. We need collaboration with the manufacturers and with our code making organizations, and we need actual firefighters to be involved in that process. And we're all operating within these silos, and I think that that's one of the problems. And of course, the manufacturer of the EV vehicle, they want to sell vehicles, and so the emergency response firefighting is going to be an afterthought to them. Then they don't really care, and in a lot of cases, they're going to tell us what we want to hear. But I think the key is that we all we do need to create some opportunities for that collaboration, and that's how we find the solutions to these things. Easier said than done. Of course, we've all got our own agenda, but I think that's what the biggest struggle is right now, is kind of crossing over and into those other silos.
Definitely. And just to kind of look towards the future landscape of not just what you're doing, but also the wider collective of kind of what firefighters and fire departments are doing. How do you see the role of a firefighter or a fire department evolving over the next decade or so?
I don't. This is tough.
The million
I
dollar
think that,
question.
yeah, I really think that we're kind of, I don't want to be dramatic and say we're at a breaking point by any means, but I do worry a little bit about our resiliency as a service. I think, as I mentioned before, and maybe that's just anecdotal, but I just feel like these last 5 years, and of course, COVID had something to do with that and the changing landscape, but this last 5 years seems like it's sped by, and there've been so many changes and so much change, even maybe things that you can't even articulate or point to, but it just feels different in our industry. And it feels like the fire service has taken on so much. I mean, we don't say no to anything, and that's why, like I mentioned before, we've taken on hazmat, we've taken on technical rescue, we've a lot of us, especially in North America, are running our own EMS. And so with that comes all the problems of those individual areas and the challenges of those. And we're doing it with the same amount of people. I saw a stat the other day that the amount of firefighters in our across our country has decreased probably 10% in the last 10 years. I'm not, don't quote me on that number, but our numbers are decreasing, and our call load and the complexity is only getting greater. And so I guess I wonder if it's not going to be some huge revolution with some sort of technology that's going to fix everything, but more that we need to maybe focus and take on and look at a little bit of specialization in some areas. I think with some of the challenges we're facing, with our unhoused populations in our big cities, and the mental health crisis that we have, and that sort of thing, that I don't know that we can expect the 911 responders to respond to all that sort of thing. So I would love to see a little bit of innovation in those areas, and a lot of departments are doing some great things right now where we're kind of specializing that approach and taking on more technically skilled positions within our department. I think we will always be that kind of jack of all trades, where you call and we're going to come solve your problem. But I think we need to start looking towards more long-term actual solutions to those problems, instead of just coming in and being reactionary. We're going to have to start to be a little more proactive in that area. And I think we're starting to see a lot, especially in North America, at least with our in the United States with the U.S. Fire Administration. We've got a very, very proactive group within our U.S. Fire Administration that's starting to try to put these pieces together and look at the fire service as a whole, and the challenges that we face, and just really try to start to make some proactive change towards that. Like I said, I just think we have a resiliency issue, and I don't know how long we can go at the pace that we're going. So I used a lot of words right there, basically to say we're in a kind of a complex world, and I do think that we need to start to really specialize in some of those areas to take some of the load off of what the crews are facing in the street.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree. I think the fire industry is in both passive and active side is facing a skill issue, an upskilling issue, a recruitment issue. There's severely lacking in firefighters and new fire recruits, all internationally. And that's a huge challenge that we have to kind of face head on. And that's once again collaboratively we have to face head on. How do we make the fire industry more appealing to to young people? And it's not about kind of just the firefighting side of it. It's like you said, the fire admin, the fire officer, the fire safety, the fire inspection, all the different kind of aspects that you don't usually think of within the industry. That's where we need the people. So how we can get people in there is a whole other conversation. But I think talking about it, raising that dialogue, and kind of bring that discourse between people is incredibly important, just to kind of start raising that awareness. And that's one of the reasons we're here today, is to try and kind of bring those topics to light. But I think the especially in the North American market, I'm not surprised that you're feeling it the most, because like you said, you are the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. You are we have a separate ambulance service and paramedic service here. Not that they aren't got enough strain and challenges in their department as well, but yeah, it's very, very different kind of setup. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all, but I hope that we can come to some sort of solution and resolution, at some point soon. Just not just for your sake, but for all of everyone's sake.
I agree, and you mentioned a good point about the recruitment and the retention challenges that we have, and we need to figure out how to find that balance of teaching and maintaining the traditions that we have, because there are a lot of them that are really, really good and really, really important, but then also understanding that it is, kind of inviting that next generation in with new ideas, and like I said before, meeting them where they are, and bringing them up, because they are going to be the ones that truly can find some of, lead us into that next generation, and lead us through some of these challenges that we have right now. It all compounds on itself, and we're not in a dire situation. We've always adapted. That's what I love about the fire service, and especially the American Fire Service. I mean, that's all I know. But I love our adapt and overcome attitude that we have, and that's why I love doing it. You call us regardless of what it is. We are going to come help you solve your problem. But we do sometimes need to look at maybe new ways to solve some of those problems.
Definitely. Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for today, Eric. But thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me and to try and hash out some of the core difficulties that we're facing in the industry. Hopefully, like I said, we can come to some sort of solution collaboratively, internationally, and start overcoming these challenges and these changes that we're facing. If anybody has any further questions for Eric, you can either connect with him on LinkedIn, or you can reach out to him directly on the platform, and you can talk further. So thank you.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.